Hey, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, and like we always say, all season long. Well, again, the season didn't last very long this year. Roughly about 6 weeks ago, it came to a screeching halt when the COVID-19 virus came and reared its ugly head. And, ski patrollers who sometimes in denial a little bit said, well, what's the deal here? We're going to be shut down for a few days or maybe a week, and this is nothing but a bad case of the flu, and we all thought it would be okay. And, push came to shove, and a few days later, the president is on the news, and the media's out there saying, no, this is not good. So ski patrollers said, well, I'll go in the backcountry. And the federal government came in and said, hey, guys, we can't have you up there. We can't stress out or tax out our local EMS people on finding you guys when you get hurt or get into an avalanche. And we just need you to cool out. So packing our bags, stomping away, we said, well, I guess we're not going to ski again for another 6 months or so. But it's just that thing that patrollers have. They said, well, we're not quitting. We're not giving up. We got to do something. So I waited a little while, and I started hearing stories about patrollers stepping up and doing phenomenal things. The first one we had was a guy up at Liberty Mountain right here in central Pennsylvania, doing the goggles for doctors deal. And another guy was making face shields. And I started getting more phone calls in and emails saying, hey, I have a nurse friend that's doing this, or I have a doctor friend that's doing this. And push came to shove, I started doing these interviews. And welcome to Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, special COVID-19 episode number 6. And we're here talking with one of the legends of the National Ski Patrol in the Eastern Division, Ed McNamara. Ed, how you doing all the way up there in Massachusetts?
Good. And you, Mark?
We're doing fine. We're just talking about how we're trying to stay quarantined but still do some fun stuff. And it's good to hear that your daughter and your family and all that are doing well and safe up there in Massachusetts. Talk about, you retired last year from your regular job, and you're patrolling and just living the good life. And March 13th, I'm not saying the good life, the door shut down on the good life, but the fun life. And I hear you got activated back into the EMS system. I heard you were in there for a couple weeks, and talk about where you got deployed and what you were doing.
Okay, so I serve on a federal disaster medical team, and I want to stress there are a number of patrollers in the national organization that serve on these teams across the country. They're primarily made up of paramedics, nurses, and doctors. And the team that I serve on, I've been serving now in this role since just after 9/11. And we go to any major incident that the federal government declares a disaster area. So it could be a hurricane. We've been to all the major hurricanes. We've been to Haiti for the incident down there. And in March, my team was activated to go out and serve with the individuals coming off the cruise ships. So I think everybody knew about the cruise ship incident. What they probably didn't know as much about is where those people went and how they were handled. So my team was deployed out there to California. We were asked to move into a hotel, and actually given a hotel that was empty. All of the managers and everybody that worked there had left. And so we were essentially given the keys to the building. We set it up. We developed security. My job, I came on the team as a paramedic years ago. I am now the safety officer, which is a position above, and I'm responsible to work with the police, fire, and deal with anything that could relate to safety of our team and our guests or patients, whatever you want to call them. And depending on the situation, sometimes they're considered just guests if they aren't actually sick at that time. So in this case, we were supposed to be getting individuals off the boat that needed to be quarantined for 14 days under federal guidelines. So the group that were working with us, again, it's the federal government that sends out security, and all of these individuals are actually given orders that they're restricted to the facility for that 14-day time frame.
Right.
Our assumption initially was that these individuals would be primarily people that just needed to serve the 14 days, that were healthy and so forth. Unfortunately, it was in the early days of COVID, so there wasn't any testing going on right when we got started. And what we ended up with actually was we separated each of the floors. One floor was people that were there for 14 days and did not appear to be sick. Then we had some floors where individuals could potentially be sick, and then we had floors where people were sick.
Wow.
And by the time we left, the majority of people ended up, the majority of them with some reaction to the COVID strain. If it was a serious reaction, then we transported them to a hospital, but otherwise they were treated on site and taken care of on site.
Now, folks, this is a ski patroller from Wachusett Mountain that was starting to ski fresh powder because we didn't get it all year, and the conditions were really good. And then he gets shipped off to Oakland, California to take care of a disaster that's about ready to happen that we didn't know much about. Now, ironically, in my other life, I work for a company that puts on running events and marathons and lacrosse events all over the country. And your cruise ship was parked on our race course.
Oh, really?
And we're having a meeting and we're going, I don't think we're running the Oakland Marathon this year. There's a whole bunch of people on a boat. So little did I know that you were there. I would have called you and said, can you move it down a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Can you move it south? But that's pretty interesting. So I guess you got your eyes wide open with that 2-week experience. And just what have you learned about the virus from the inside that you didn't know then? And are there any plans for you to get deployed anywhere else?
So I guess I'll start with just before I left, Eastern Division was preparing to have their division YAP conference. So I was involved in meetings with the division director and the division medical officer and so forth, talking about, okay, if they're going to do it and have this thing, these are the things we need to do to protect the students and the parents and everybody else that was going to be up there. And then, of course, after I got deployed, it was canceled. But I think we learned a lot out there. We learned a lot about, we never spend a lot of time training on how to deal with infectious agents. Most of our responses are trauma. So when we go to hurricanes and all these other incidents, they're normally trauma related.
Right.
And that's, that or medical incidents, but it's not very often that we see, and this is my first case in many, many years of doing this, where we had an infectious agent. So we were obviously gowned up, masks, face shields, gloves, and everything. Anytime we had either patient contact or we were actually in our hotel area. So it was eye-opening to have to do that and be in that type of environment, even when you're talking to people that were healthy, because you just didn't know if they had been in contact with other patients that were sick. And then we also didn't know back then, how contagious was it? How far away did you have to be? How long did it live on different types of materials?
Right.
So I think a lot of that is coming to light now that we weren't aware of, but we certainly did the best to protect ourselves, and every member of my team came back healthy. So
we talked about the winter officers meeting that you were getting ready for, and it was the YAP, Eastern Division YAP seminar there. My truck was packed. I'm getting ready to go, and my wife said, "Are you really going?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's on. Nothing's going to happen up there. It's in Vermont." So I started to drive away, and I get an email, and I came back, and she goes, "That was a quick trip." It was about a 15-minute trip. So unfortunate, that would have been a fun time, because I'd never been to the YAP before, and I wanted to go there.
Conference. It's if you get the chance this next year,
Right.
It's a lot of fun. The kids are just amazing. Frankly, I'll tell you, they are so good at some of the skill sets there that I'd be a little concerned to be in competition with some of these kids. They
I
are
heard it.
very, very good.
Yeah, that was good. Well, a couple of firsts for me. I'd never skied at Smuggler's Notch before.
Mhm.
Never been to the East Division Yap thing before. I've been to some local ones, and then they wanted me to be involved with the winter officers meeting, which I'd never got involved with before. So the good news is I heard from Chris Toda the other day that it's going back to Smuggler, so I'm going to be there next year. So hopefully
That's
we'll see
great.
you up there, Ed.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it. It's going to be a great time. Looking forward to it.
Now, Ed, what's going on right now? Are you just kind of on Are you on hold? Are you on standstill? And what goes on now?
So our teams get assigned certain months of the year where we become primary and backup as a
Mhm.
team. That was not our primary month. So we're actually on coming up in a week or two here next month,
Mhm.
and we will be the primary team then. So last month we were a backup, one of the backup teams that got called out. So we never really know, and it could be that we're going to go right out next month at the beginning of the month or not. And the way it works is that you'll go any place in continental US or
Mhm.
to any country or territory that's directed by the president. So
Wow.
if something's going on in some other country, he can say, okay, we all have passports with us. We're now going to move you to X country
Holy cow.
to assist
Yeah.
them. So we don't know where we're going to go. Again, like I said, we were in Haiti during the earthquake a number of years ago. That was quite an experience. And I want to state again that there's a bunch of patrollers.
Right.
Um, Paul Brooks, who is the OEC supervisor for Alaska,
Yeah, he's
is
in
another.
Alaska, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Paul and I have been at events together, his team and my team, and we've
Wow.
worked together. So I do see other patrollers out there, which is it's great.
Well, that's
And
good.
if patrollers are interested, they definitely should look into it or contact me. I can tell them how to do it.
Okay, good. I'll try to keep that out, the word out there. And I've asked this question. I talked to a patroller, Mike Most, the other day from Magic Mountain, who is a surgeon, a general surgeon, who is left, is really out of a job, so he's over in the intensive care unit helping out there. And I was asking him, and I've asked a couple people, we do all the training with the PPEs, and I know we kind of take it for granted sometimes. Nothing's going to happen. I got my gloves on. How much do you think that those protocols have intensified for you? I mean, you walked into it and didn't even really know what you're into. And how much emphasis you think that's going to play as we continue our training in the fall that we do every year and with the candidates?
Well, I can say for myself and everybody on my team that went out or that's been involved, or anybody in the healthcare field right now that's involved with COVID, it's changed a lot. I mean, you take the CDC guidelines on how to put on the gear and how to take it off, and you're washing your hands in between every step that you go through. You actually, when you put either the gear on or take it off, you have someone there helping you and supervising you to make sure you don't miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very detailed procedure, and I think I'll never forget that. I don't think anybody that's been through it will. We're going to know that whenever we deal with anything serious like this, we want to make sure that we follow step by step if we want to come out of it
Mm-hmm.
and be safe for ourselves and our families. So I think it's going to have an impact on everything we do. Unfortunately, as you know, the new textbook is coming out.
I was going to bring that up too. So
There may be, we tried to get 3 sentences in as it went to the publisher, so it was already on the way to the publisher. I'm hoping those 3 sentences are at least in the book to say, we know about it at this point.
right.
It's not addressed in the book. Obviously, it couldn't be. We were too far into the procedure. But I think it's going to make a difference for all healthcare providers, and we're certainly part of that system on knowing and stressing
Mm-hmm.
how to deal with these things.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. For those of you who don't know out there, the Outdoor Emergency Care textbook is the Ski Patrol Bible. It's all of our medical training in the book that we use. and Ed's been one of the people that helped publish that book when it comes out. And the 6th edition comes out, I think, is it supposed to come out next week?
No, it comes out in May 11th, I believe it is.
Oh, so it's a few weeks away.
Yeah.
And so Ed's been not only work, that's got to be a worrisome job. You never know if you have the right period in the right place. And in the medical community, everything changes every month, it seems like. So talk about your work on the OEC 6th edition, and hopefully it didn't take a back seat, or it's still on schedule, and the COVID didn't affect that at all.
So no, it didn't. Fortunately, the COVID happened well after most of it had been completed. So it is at the publisher. I think people are going to like some of the new things that we've made available with it. We not only have a textbook, we have an ebook that you can use on your phone, you can use on your Kindle, you can use on your computer, and every page number will match on all the devices. So that's new. It wasn't that way with the 5th edition. We have a what do you call it? One of the little voice books where it talks to you. There's a word.
Oh, wow. Right.
So you can actually get these. This will come out so that you can listen to it while you're driving or sitting on the beach or whatever you want. So those are a couple things that are new that we didn't have the ability to put into the book before. And then obviously in the book itself, we have some new things in there. We have a new way of doing assessment. We have a new way of treating patients that are bleeding. We have a new way of dealing with patients as far as oxygen and the level. So we talk about the use of a pulse oximeter. Right. And we say that once they're at a certain level, you don't have to give them oxygen. So there's probably a number of things in the textbook that may surprise people that are new techniques since the 5th edition came out. So I think people are going to be happy with the textbook, I hope.
Well, I'm sure there's 33,000 members of the National Ski Patrol out there, and we'd all like to tip our hat to you guys who take on that task. But I would like to say that I think you just made my OEC refresher a little easier, because now I can find the answers when I'm like, where's that? Because I'm old school I'm WEC from way back.
Oh, yeah.
And I can listen to the audio book on the way to my refresher. So you got me covered.
That's right. And make it easier for you. And we actually put out surveys to people 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now, to say, would you be interested in this? And then we put that in the contract. Enough people said, yeah, I listen to audiobooks when I'm in my car or when I'm sitting vacationing. So we said, okay, let's try it.
Hey, you know what? We're innovative. You can try it. Hopefully it'll work. Yep. I'm sure if it didn't all work, I'm sure we'll figure out how to make it work in the next time around. But that's an endeavor that I don't know if I would want to. And I like to write. I'm a former writer. I don't know if I'd like to take that on or not.
I'll put your name in the book there for the next one.
Okay, no problem. So Ed, just talk about when you're out with your DMAT team and you're doing you're trying to control the situation and get a stronghold on it. How much of your patroller skills in terms of managing scenes and dealing with patients, how much of that can you take into the job you do with your DMAT team?
So I think one of the important things that we take, and it's not really a specific skill, it's the ability to be innovative and to be able to deal with changes in a situation. And when you're out on the slope, we never know where we're going to be, where we're going to find a patient, and what type of situation they're going to be in. We may be alone, we may have some help, we may have to use bystanders. So I think ski patrollers are very good at adapting to situations. And that's different than the normal healthcare field and EMS. It's just, you're normally short help, so you have to figure out ways to make it work. And that's the one thing when we go out with DMAT, it's the same thing. We have a 35-member team, and that 35-member team is made up of the docs, the nurses, the medics, and the logistics people. And we all get together and put up the tents together. We all put the equipment together. And whatever time that takes, then we set up and we're operational. But everybody, doctors, nurses, everybody is putting up all this equipment. Mm-hmm. And if something doesn't work, then we figure out a way to make it work. If we're in a situation like in some other country and we have to set up our equipment and we don't have a good location, we adapt. And right. I think ski patrollers are very good at doing that. When I was at the New Orleans, when the flooding and the hurricane and all came down through there, Katrina, yeah. Again, Bob and I were there together working at the airport, and he and I ran the airfield. And I think it was because, number one, of our other experiences, but also that we could get out there and work together as a team and say, okay, here's how we're going to make this work. There's no rules on this. Nobody's ever done this before. We'll make it work. And again, it was a couple of patrollers out there doing that. So,
well, I can attest to your leadership because I've seen you at the certified boot camp take 135 patrollers that are all A-type personalities, and they all got their better way to do it. And somehow, some way, you gather them together, and we learn a lot, and we laugh about it, and nobody pointed a finger saying, that Ed McNamara, I don't know. It doesn't happen. So I'm assured that you're calm, cool, and collected, but you know how to make it work.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
So you can tell John Kane that you in charge up there. It's his house. We don't want it to burn down, right?
That's right. But we might put a plane on the roof, though. You never know.
We did that. That was one of the more shocking ones I've been to. But Ed, just talk about when this is all over, how much is our life going to change when we go back to skiing and using our skills out on the mountain? With maybe that little fear, like, am I protected enough? What am I getting into? What am I sticking my hands into? Are these gloves going to work?
So I think, again, that the ski patrol is very well trained. I think most people will tell you if they've taken EMT training, they're going to take a look at the OEC training and say, it's different, but it's top quality. It's a great program. We're very fortunate to have super instructors. My guess is that many of them are going to be focusing on, okay, guys, you have to wear gloves. You have to have goggles. You have to have protective equipment on because, if you keep watching TV and listening to the docs from the different national organizations speak, and they're saying, you can expect this from now on. This isn't going to totally go away. Right. And the big concern is, are we going to have it again next fall, next December? And the general consensus from most of them is, yeah, it's going to be around. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to be really focused in the fall refresher on how do we deal with patients, knowing it's out there and maybe the ski areas are still going to be open, but I want our people to be protected. So gloves, we do have goggles, we do have clothing that can protect us, and hopefully we're doing that and listening to what we're learning now and putting that to practice from now on.
Well, Ed, on behalf of the 33,000 ski patrollers of the members of the National Ski Patrol, again, we thank you for doing what you do. And for the folks out there that want to get involved, there are all kinds of ways to get involved in your neighborhood, your area, your community. The hospitals are looking for all kinds of people to step up. And even if you're just donating things to the frontline workers, that's something that they probably need and all that. So again, meet the members of the National Ski Patrol. Always comes to a mountain near you, and we always like to talk to fun people like Ed McNamara here. And folks, if you haven't taken that step and you want to become a member of the National Ski Patrol, Ed wrote the book. You can say that now. I wrote the book. How funny is that? So again, everything's locked down right now, so you can't pick up the phone and call your local mountain or your patrol director, and you can't call the national office or log on to www.nsp.org because we're all shut down. We're all at home. But, in a little while, everything's going to start to ramp up, and we're going to get going. And, Ed, I want to see you up at Wachusett this year, and maybe I'll see you in the summer. Maybe I'll see you in the summer. I don't know if the boot camp's going to go on, but we'll see you down the road.
Okay. Sounds good, Mark. Thanks a lot.
We need to ski some of that powder that we left behind when we shut the doors again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, special edition COVID-19, episode number 5. We'll see you down the road. Again, meet the members of the National Ski Patrol.